Good morning, Mesh. Catch us on Twitter as @Mashalaba Speaks. IG, it will be the man Yonela. Catch us on Facebook as Yonela Mashalaba. Good morning, Mash. The After Jog Thoughts. My name is Uyonela Mashalaba, aka the iceberg that never broke. Do catch us on Twitter as Mashalaba Speak. You also find us on IG as the man Yonela. Do also find us on Facebook as, of course, Uyonela Mashalaba. Today we are popping up on a very special segment where the Executive Committee of Senate of the Nelson Mandela University is busy deliberating in that particular room about what measures to take as a university. The leadership of the university is currently meeting to consult on appropriate measures that it wants to take for the institution in view of the national development of the COVID-19, which is the coronavirus. So I thought, let me just pop in. I know we are turning around from our normal schedule, but we thought this information was very important. So we are currently camping out at the council chambers where the leadership of the university, which includes the vice chancellor and the president and probably the dean of students, are meeting up in that particular room to discuss what measures to take as a university. We are very aware that numerous universities have chosen to shut down around the country. Particularly, UCT has taken its first term break as from today, suspending all classes and lectures until further notice. UJ has also decided to suspend its academic activities until further notice. UKZN has also embarked on this particular journey of suspending lectures and all academic activities until further notice. I have noticed that the Northwest University has also decided to continue with lectures. Whilst the university discusses, it had sent an email on the 15th of March after the president's report that there will be lectures at Nelson Mandela University. There has been pandemonium that has arisen from political parties of the institution, saying that if the institution does not follow the trend of the other universities, stating that firstly that the university is not an island, that it should respond appropriately to this particular pandemic as the other universities have responded. As the South African Student Congress has, or SASCO, as popularly known, has promised a shutdown, a national shutdown, if the university does not decide to shut down on its own accord. But the president of the SRC, which is also a member of SASCO, is also sitting in those meetings to discuss further developments into this issue in terms of what is the institutional direction when it comes to this particular matter. Hopefully, when they come out of that door, I'll get a chance to speak to someone in the management position to be able to articulate to us what the direction of the Nelson Mandela University is, and hopefully I'll also be able to talk to the president of the Nelson Mandela University Student Representative Council, Uthembaletu Nyigilane, to give the students direction on this matter. I have noticed as I was driving to campus that a number of students, or at least a few students that I've seen, have decided to take precaution, wearing something around their nose and mouth as they were walking in. There's a very limited number of people currently on campus, and I've spoken to a few staff members, and they're also pretty worried about the numbers of students that are currently present. So everyone seems to be alarmed at this particular point, and hopefully the discussions of that meeting will calm down our nerves and provide direction as to where the institution is opting to take in the direction of the COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. So I'll be camping outside here. Hopefully someone comes out and gives us direction.
Interview.
Hello guys, I've got a few students from the Nelson Mandela University, 2 students. They're just going to shortly introduce themselves. Your name?
Matigane.
Matigane.
Sipodom.
No Sipodom. I just wanted to find out what their feel is about the coronavirus pandemic that is happening at an international scale, looking that there has been universities that have decided to close. OU City decided to close for first term. UJ decided to suspend academic activities. UKZN, and it's seemingly that Nelson Mandela University is continuing as business as usual. What do you have to say about that? How does that make you feel?
Honestly, we feel saddened that we feel like the university is not like taking our help into consideration. Yeah. They feel like we are immune to this virus where we're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you guys foresee? I know that the executive committee of Senate was sitting at the first floor trying to discuss way forward. What would be your hopes with regards to that? What are you hoping that they would come up with? What type of solutions and resolutions?
Suspension of lectures.
Suspension of lectures.
Yeah, and the graduation ceremony.
And the graduation ceremony. Would you like those to be suspended, cancelled, or just postponed? Postponed.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are very worried. Where are you guys from?
I'm from Durban.
Durban. Oh, I know there's been cases that have been reported. Are you worried about your siblings, your family?
But in the news they said there's only 1%.
Okay, 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not very worried because the numbers are not high.
Yeah.
So it's not affecting how you do your assessment and.
I wanna go home.
You wanna go home?
Yeah.
Okay. And where are you from?
I'm from East London.
It's London. Okay. There hasn't been any reported cases there, and you'd like to go home to be with family?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No, thank you very much, guys. I hope that the decision of the ECS will come up with something positive according to your guys' wishes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, sure. Okay, we have another university student. Come closer. I know we're not supposed to be close when dealing with this particular issue. But we are on Good Morning MASH, and we're reporting at the Nelson Mandela University. This is one of the students here. What's your name and what are you studying?
I'm Michelle. I'm studying BTS in biological sciences.
Okay. Any views on the current situation on campus?
I feel like Nelson Mandela not closing. It's okay, right? Because they're focusing on the academics.
Yeah.
But they should implement measures like give them masks or the hand sanitizer at least, not just let people walk around like this.
Good morning, everyone. We are here with Nelson Mandela University President. They just came out from the Special Executive Committee of Senate meeting, where high-level discussion was taking place with regards to the measures that must be taken by the university to translate the high-level strategy of the President. Mr. President himself, can you just take us through the meeting? I'm sure it was very hectic.
Thank you very much, Mash, and good morning to your viewers. Yes, we just adjourned now the special ECS meeting. Mainly the topic this morning was around the issue of the COVID-19 virus outbreak. And of course, like a sector, we needed to sort of put the necessary precautions and measures in place and be able to come to a decision on what then unfolds. I think at the most immediate, it was a very difficult decision to arrive to because there are a lot of things that you need to put into context, Mesh. One is that we are a university that is very diverse and we have students who come from multiple backgrounds. So you can't just amidst haphazardly just take a decision to close down the university. You have to take into consideration that there's traveling that needs to take place. Also within that traveling, you have the president that said last night, let's restrict domestic traveling and international traveling. Let us restrict mass gatherings as well. So I think at the immediate, we've agreed to effectively immediately suspend academic programs of the university until the end of the Easter break. But what will happen is that after the recess period, which is in 2 weeks' time, students will be communicated with in terms of where to between the recess break as well as the end of the Easter break. So we've suspended academic activities, but secondly to that as well is that we needed to take into consideration a number of things. So those students who will be deciding to move to their respective places, and this is why it was not an easy decision to take MASH, because you have to take into consideration the fact that, one, we have students who come from the Cape Town region, who come from the Gauteng region, who come from the Mpumalanga region, who come from the KZN region. Some students are international students as well, who are our students as well. So a decision to arrive, it is not one that you can just make haphazardly overnight, because seemingly there are pressures that you need to respond to. So on the issue of graduation, which I think has caused a lot of anxiety as well from students, is that we've postponed and not cancelled graduation. We've postponed graduation till the spring period. But because of the certain statutes that we need to adhere to as far as conferring a graduation and a qualification, that process will take place in terms of conferring those certificates, because these students need those certificates for employment and everything. That process will take place. The registrar's office will then communicate on how it will take place. So students will get that process, but I think the ceremonial part of it, which I think we can't take away and deprive students of, some of these students are first generation graduates from their families, that is then postponed to the spring break.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned the part of taking into consideration the many of factors, because the Vice Chancellor of the Witwatersrand University was speaking about the dangers of allowing students to go home, or rather telling students to go home and further spreading this communicable disease. And I understand from the perspective of why he would be wary of that, because it is his university that has a particular case of a student that has been infected. So I'm sure those type of discussions have been going on in terms of, like, are we not then spreading this into rural areas, to areas that are currently, I don't want to say immune, but don't have any cases, by moving our students from cities back to where they come from, where the sanitation is not as good as the universities? Are we not putting the students in further danger?
No, so these are some of the things that we needed to thoroughly look into, MASH. And again, it's difficult decisions that we needed to take, because one, you still have the issue of mass gatherings, and those affect our residences, on campus as well. So it's a number of multiple things that you need to apply your minds towards in terms of. So I think the most immediate was to reduce the amount of contact among students and traveling, which is the reason why we've then decided to suspend the academic activities. And number two, Nash, is that, look, amongst the anxiety and the panic that we've been having from students around the worries of the corona outbreak, is that there's not been fruitful learning taking place in classes. I can only imagine a student from KZN who's sitting in class wondering how long will it take before their sibling, their relative is affected, because it's happening in those provinces. So I think it was the most responsible thing that we could do to suspend the academic activity for the students. But I think as well, Mash, part and parcel of everything is that I think we must take this period that we've suspended academic activities to be extremely responsible as well as students, adhering to some of the advices that have been given on sanitation and everything, but also at our own academic backdrop, to ensure that this period is not just a break students decide to take. You can imagine, I was called into this morning's meeting after having spent the whole weekend dealing with NSFAS appeals. And it's again, even looking there, it's worrisome. We've increased as a university from dealing with 700 appeals in 2019 to dealing with close to 4,000 appeals in 2020. So it's again, it needs us to work together as students and ensure that whatever the outcome, it's a national issue, it's a national pandemic, an international pandemic and a national crisis to us. But I think let's just work together on it and ensure that students' best interests are what is served at the end of the day, both health as well as academic.
Okay, so by saying that, I assume that you are telling the students that there'll be cooperation between management and student leadership, because in the past 15 hours you'd have seen that there's been contradicting statements being put out on social media by the university and by the student representative council, rather student leadership, not the student representative council.
No, definitely.
So will we see working together and part of the leadership of this institution?
Definitely, nothing for us without us. I think that's the principle of everything. We'll be communicating in detail as the SRC in terms of the outcomes of this meeting and how exactly pinpoint how we've resolved in the meeting. So I think it's an issue of stakeholders listening to other stakeholders. I won't comment about the statement issued by the university last night. I have my reservations about it. I felt that it was extremely unnecessary and reckless, to say the least. So hopefully the university will issue out a statement that is more sober and more understanding of what actually transpired in the meeting. But us as an SRC will be communicating through our respective communication channels, which is the Nelson Mandela University SRC page on Facebook, as well as our Twitter page on Facebook, and also will issue out correspondence via email to our students. And of course channels such as the Good Morning Mash, which have been of assistance in ensuring that we're able to communicate with our students.
Okay, just briefly, President, with regards to the team that has been instituted by the institution to deal with the coronavirus, have they had any communication with the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, and what are the emerging views that come from those type of experts?
Prof. Lungile Pepeta, the Dean of Health Science, is at the center of ensuring that us as a university who are quite responsive. I mean, even when students return from the breakaway that we have now, to ensure that the university is able to receive them properly and we limit the chances of the spreading of the outbreak as much as possible.
Okay. Just one more. When it comes to the student behavior, I think you have touched on that, is that the students must work according to the advice that has been given in terms of washing their hands, keeping a certain level of hygiene to make sure that the spread is not out of control. So that's still the basic communication to treat this particular diseases like any viral disease that's out there.
Yeah, particularly now at this period, I think another thing that we've worked out of with in this meeting is to ensure that we actually go out and get vaccinated for the flu season.
Okay.
You know, flu season is almost at the door. Normally we take it for granted getting flu vaccines,
Yeah.
but I think in the crisis that we're facing now of the pandemic, is to really ensure that we take all precautions that are there. So students must ensure that we're able to get vaccinated for the flu season, and I think that was one of the mitigating factors that led to us to take such a decision of immediately calling off academic program until the end of the Easter break, is that we are approaching flu season.
Yeah.
and it I mean, we started getting SMSs now of people sneezing in classes and causing a panic, you know. So I think it was the most responsible thing to do, and I think students must adhere to those conditions.
Okay, and President, you are not saying that one can use a vaccine for particular coronavirus, but because of the type of nature of this disease, it makes other conditions worse. So you are saying that people should use vaccines for the other diseases so that they have a stronger immune system basically to deal.
And I think it's really let's I mean we're a social media generation. I think the advices are there on social media. Let's just ensure that we act in a responsible way and we're able to adhere to all conditions and precautions that are there. You know, they're not nice, but they are going to require us to be at an extremely disciplined level and ensure that we were able, one as a university as well as a country, to ensure that this does not affect us. We've been fortunate enough in the metro that it hasn't shown its ugly head, as well as in the university, but let's keep it like that and let's ensure that we're able to respond to all of the presidential announcements as well as our own university announcements.
Okay, that is President of the Nelson Mandela University, Uthembaletu Nyigilana, calling basically for the university community to work together to basically bring a permanent solution to this particular international pandemic. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we are here with the Dean of Students, Mr. Luthando Jack. Gunjan. Siyaphila Tata.
Yes.
I hear that you guys were in an intense meeting to discuss a way forward with regards to how the institution wants to deal with this particular international pandemic. and there's been some commitments that have been made from the student leadership. I just want to know what's the type of cooperation that has been coming out of the meeting. Is everyone agreeing on the way forward solution with regards to the coronavirus structures that are put in place by the institution?
Yes, Yonela. We've agreed. By the way, even last week, the university has set up a health committee to basically develop a response to the virus, by the university. To look at a short-term as well as a long-term response, in this regard. So what has been agreed upon is to basically accelerate the work of that committee, in terms of providing that short-term as well as a long-term response, of Mandela University. So that's what has been basically agreed upon. So the students will participate, in the form of the SRC, in that particular structure, and as the structure takes decisions from that structure will then be communicated for the consumption of all stakeholders of the university.
Okay. In terms of the student behavior, Dean, is there any particular calls that you would like to emphasize on based on the President's report in terms of how the student populace should be behaving to curb this particular epidemic, or is there any other thing? Like, I know we've been told to wash our hands, to keep a safe distance as far as possible. I know there's a new DAB greeting as well that has been introduced. Is there any other emphasis that you'd like to put as the Dean of Students in terms of student behavior?
Yeah, what I would ask our students to do is to really be their own agents for their own health. So be your own agent for your own health. They say health is wealth. So if you live a healthy lifestyle, then you will continue to exist. So our students must take the necessary precautionary measures as announced by the President, maintaining a social distance, washing their hands, at least minimum 20 seconds, be extra careful, be extra vigilant, exercise vigilance. Look after yourself. Just revisit your those things that make us to be African, like socializing, the way we used to greet. Let's suspend those things for now until, as a country, we've found a way of containing, the virus. So let's just be military, in terms of abiding, by those measures that have been announced by the President. So let's be self-disciplined.
Okay. Just one last question, Dean. I've seen Mr. Abib has been worried about us sending students home, particularly for his particular university, because there has been a case there saying that he's worried that by doing that as well, there might be a risk of sending students to rural areas who might spread this part of disease. I know that I've spoken to the Vice Chancellor, and she has said that the approach that the university is taking is very different, because it has to take into consideration the type of students that we have, that not everyone is going to have the money to go home immediately. So there are different type of preventative measures that are put in place. How would that fall out?
Yeah, basically our approach is that we must be multi-dimensional, as the university. We mustn't really take a one-size-fits-all type of approach, because we admit our students, they come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So we wouldn't really want to take a decision that is going to force our students to take a particular route. Whatever decision that we take, it must still allow our students to exercise their own choices. But as we do that, either way, either our students decide to go home or not, that type of a decision will have to be supported by clear measures that we take, as an institution. If our students remain in our institution, in our residences, we've got to then make sure that the measures that have been announced by our president still apply. As much as even if they go home, we must continue with the education program such that as they go home, they apply the similar measures, because there is no place that is free, that has been declared free of this virus, because as you know, this virus is so unpredictable and it is spreading very fast, on a daily basis, or probably on an hourly basis. Yeah.
So you're saying we might be seeing e-learnings in the future?
Well, I wouldn't. Those are some of the discussions that I still have to be looked at, by the universities. I'm saying there is a committee that has been set up to basically look at short-term as well as long-term measures. We don't want to take decisions on the basis of the now, short-term decisions that may have unintended consequences. So every decision that we really want to make, it must be a decision that is informed by information, by knowledge, such that it's a decision that contributes, to our being, as the university, which is really the provision of quality learning and teaching, and the provision of access, to all our students. So let's hypothetically, let's say we go e-learning. What are the implications in relation to that, with respect to issues of digital divide and things like that? So we've got to look at those aspects, as well. So we've got to make a total consideration of all factors, such that a decision that we arrive at, as an institution, is a decision that makes sense, that accommodates everyone.
Okay, so that is the Dean of Students, Mr. Lutando Jack, saying that health is wealth and precaution. Thank you very much, Dean. We appreciate it.
Thanks.